Hi everyone. So my name is Pawan Saket. I'm working as a physics teacher presently for up to 10th standard. Today I am here to explain about the basic concepts of physics. So before going into the physics, first of all we have to know what do we mean by physics. So physics is nothing but everybody what do you think that we are going to do. Means we are going to know what are the physical actions, means how the physics is imposed to your life. So everybody will know that from morning to evening, it means up to going to bed. Means from the morning, wake up to evening, going to bed. So each and every action is going to be with physics. So what are the different actions? For example, we can say for brushing, we are going to use our hand. At the same time for writing, after doing eating, breakfast and everything, means each and every concept. In all the concepts we are going to use the physics. So already we know that there are 5 types of forces. Okay now, so that the combination of the 5 types of forces can be called as physics. So what are the 5 types of forces? Already you know that according to the Hindu Siddhantas or what are that our Indian traditions, we can call as a Panchabhutan. So in that way, as a physics also, we are going to indulge in our day-to-day life about all these things. Okay, so these 5 elements, how the 5 elements are going to combine as a particular earth or the things which are going to be laid. In the same way, these 5 forces can be called as physics. So here, the physics is a combination of which type of forces. So we have different types of forces. In that, the main 5 forces are going to deal in physics. Those are nothing but the light, the heat, sound, pressure, and gravitational force. Okay, what are the different types of forces? Light, heat, sound, pressure, gravitational force. Okay, these are the 5 types of forces that only that we are going to discuss in physics. Above these 5 types of forces, there are no more topic that we are going to discuss, and there are no more information also. So as we are going to discuss how much extent we are going to discuss in the physics, we are going to be in these topics only. Means about light and about heat, about sound and about pressure and about gravitational force. Means the names of the particular topics are different, but the main criteria will revolve along with this only with these 5 types of elements. Is it clear? So in that one today I am going to take one of the topic that is called as a motion. Okay, what do we mean by motion? So before going into the motion, first of all I said that physics entirely deals with each and every day-to-day life. So it means nothing but suppose now the time is exactly this 4:30. It means now I am in this position. So after some words or after some time I am going to move from this place to this place. It means I am going to move, I am going to change the position. And exactly now the time is 4:31. It means I take here 1 minute to change my position. Means here I am a physical object. How can I say physical object? Because I am here, means I can see me. Means what the object that we can see with our eye, those are called as a physical objects. Means here I am a physical object. I am going to change the position. Okay, I am going to change the position with respect to the time. Means the time is changing. Here the time is changing. At the same time, the body is also changing its position. Means it is going to change its state. So that type of object or that object which changes its position with respect to time. So that type of object or that type of movement is known as motion. For example, again one more example I am going to give you children. Now the time is exactly 4:31, 15 seconds. Again I am being here, so I am going to make some water, anything here. Now exactly after some time, now exactly 4:31, 25 seconds. Here the time is changing, but I am physical object, I am not to change its position. Here I am not changing any position here. It means if an object, if it is not changing its position with respect to the time. Okay, now here I am a physical object, here I am not changing its position with respect to time. Then the type of motion or then the type of movement is called as a rest position. So here clearly you can make a difference between motion and rest. So what is the difference between motion and rest? If the particular object is going to change its position with respect to time, then the type of movement is known as a motion. And if a particular object is not going to change its position, okay, here the particular object is not going to change its position with respect to the time, then the type of movement is known as a rest position. Here you have to be cleanly, you have to observe here, if time is changing. Okay, here in both the cases, in either in the motion position or in the rest position, here the time is changing, but here the position of an object is changing in one and is not changing in one. Okay, I think it's clear for you now. So here, in both the cases, the time is going to be changed, but the position of object is changing in motion and position of object is not changing in a rest position. Okay. Now, simply in physics, according to science, not only in physics, science is one of the part. Okay, physics one of the part of science. So in science, we cannot approve it or we cannot say anything in blindly. Here, how can we say that is called as a science? In science, everything we have to prove. Okay, means simply by saying means I have a mouth, I can say anything, or I have eyes, I can say anything, or I have ears, I can do anything. Like that, we cannot do anything. Simply, we have to prove it. Okay, now by proving only we can say everything that is called as science. As it is in the physics also, we have the provement. Especially in the physics, physics is a proved concept. Okay, means here why I said it's a proved concept. I said that if a body is changing its position with respect to the time, then only it can be considered as a motion. But simply we cannot say that is a motion. So simply suppose, for example, I will take an example. Here, you are all the children of different categories. Okay, but simply if and in this, suppose now everybody you are in school. In school we have different types of children and different types of people and different types of elders and different types of old age people. For example, we have smaller children, we have younger children, sometimes we have adults, sometimes we have different types of peons. Is it? So means in a school we have a combination of teachers, peons, students, okay, principal, and different types of category people will be. Why we call only some of the group of as students, why we call only some of the group as teachers, and why we call some of the group as peons, or why we call some of the group as a principal? Why don't we call all together as a one time? Means each and every group, each and every portion is having some rules. It means the teacher is going to have some rules. If a particular person has followed those rules, they shall be called as a teacher. If a particular person follows the rules of a student, then the particular student can be called as a student. Means to say that motion also means in order as a motion, the motion is also having some rules. Okay, those rules have been invented by the father of physics. His name is none other than Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, his name is Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton had explained 3 laws of motions. So the objects, if it approves or if it follows or if it satisfies these 3 laws of motion, okay, the particular object will satisfy or will approve, will do this or will accept these 3 laws of motion, then only the particular object can be considered in a motion. In that one, before going to the laws of motion, we already know what is the name of the laws of motion I am going to say. Already just now we had a clear idea about this motion. Now what is the meaning of law? Law is nothing but a rule. Okay, here the law is nothing but a rule. Means what are the rules? Okay, what are the rules to say the particular object is in motion? Okay, now what are the rules to say the particular object is in motion? What are the rules, sir? Here there are 3 rules for the laws of motion. How many rules, Nana? There are 3 rules for the laws of motion. So for going to know that one, again once again we have to recall about the 8th class physics. 8th class physics, what is the first chapter named? Force. Okay, force is nothing but the pull or push. Means to move any object we want exact amount of force. Here force plays a very major role in these 3 laws of motion. In that when the first law of motion states that what happens to an object? What happens to an object when no force acts on it? Okay, what is the first law of motion, Anna? What happens to an object when no force acts on it? Here, suppose thing is an object, and what it's going to say, there is no force acting on it. Here, suppose it is not going to accept any force. This is an object. Means this object is being in the same state. Is it happening anything, Nana? So nothing is going to happen here. It means what is the answer to this statement? The object will be in the same position. Suppose if the object is in motion position, it will be in the motion position. If the object is in the rest position, it will be in the rest position. Is it clear for everyone? So what happens to an object when no force acts on it? What happens, Nana? It will be, the object will be in the same position. Means if the object is in rest position, it will be in the rest position. If the object is in a motion position, it will be in the motion position. And the first law of motion can also be called as law of inertia. Okay, now what do you mean by inertia? So inertia is nothing but the tendency of an object which resists to change its position. Okay, the tendency of an object which resists to change its position. Okay, now which object is not at all going to accept to change its position. Okay, now so that property of the particular object is called as a inertia. We are having two types of inertia here. So what are two types of inertia? One is a static inertia, second one is a dynamic inertia. The first one is static inertia and second one is dynamic inertia. So what is the meaning of static inertia? Means if the particular object being habituated to be at rest position. Okay now, so the object will be habituated to rest position only. But suddenly it starts movement, it will not accept to be in motion. For example, you every day you are going to school or every day you are going to home after school. So, for example, you are being in the bus now. So the bus is in normal state, means without starting. But suddenly the bus driver starts the bus. You might what will do, we will observe, means knowingly or unknowingly we will have some movement in our body also. Means up to the particular time we are in rest position. We are in rest position. Suddenly the motion is going to be start. Means the body is habituated to be in rest position only. Suddenly if the body is going to be in motion, it won't accept to change immediately. So that type of inertia is called as a static inertia. The inertia in which the body resists to change, okay, resist to be in motion. Once if it starts in being rest, that type of inertia is known as a static inertia. So exactly opposite to the static inertia is nothing but dynamic inertia. So what do you mean by dynamic inertia? Already I said it's opposite. For example, already we are in bus or already we are in vehicle. So means already our body is in motion. Means already our body is habituated to be in motion. It means suddenly if you apply any brake, at the time also unknowingly our body will go for shaking. Means sometimes we will get fall also. Means the body is not at all going to accept to be in rest position. Okay, now the type of inertia in which the body resists to keep in the again in rest position. That type of inertia is known as a static inertia, dynamic inertia. Sorry, the type of inertia is known as a dynamic inertia. So these two types of inertias are being connected with the first law of motion. So already the first law of motion also going to say about that what happens to an object when no force acts on it. So what happens on it will be in the same position, like how this first law of inertia is also called as a law of inertia. Now we are going to move about the second law of motion. So what is the meaning of second law of motion? Now what happens to an object when a non-zero net force acts on it? Okay, what is the second law of motion? What happens to an object when a non-zero net force? Here I am going to say quickly, please observe here very carefully. Here I am going to say but it's a non-zero. Non-zero is nothing but it's a not at all zero. It means above the zero or everything. If it's a not zero means it has some value. Okay now. So what happens now? Non-zero means it is going to have some force. Suppose it's an object and it's going to say excess amount of force. Then what happens? It will change its position. Okay now what happens to an object now? The object will change its position. Is it clear for everyone? So the object will change its position. What is the answer? If a non-zero force acts on a particular object,